Is living in Boulder, Colorado expensive? Yes. Yes, it is. And now that I've answered your question, I guess you can just click out of this video. No, don't go. I need you. But no, really, the answer to that question is much more dynamic and complex and, dare I say, creative than just, yes, it's expensive. So in this video, I am hoping to be very helpful to you in showing you a neighborhood guide of Boulder, where to live in Boulder based on your interest and activities that you like, and also explain, I guess, the vibe of different areas of Boulder, but then also explain how you can live in Boulder in a creative way or in a way that might be a little cheaper than what you see just advertised on Craigslist or just in regular apartment ads. Before we jump into the map that I'm going to show you, I'll just start off by saying the typical rent in Boulder, Colorado varies, but it varies on the high end. So a typical one-bedroom apartment in Boulder, from what I've seen currently, you can maybe find one as cheap as like $1,200 to $1,300 a month, but most are in the upper like $1,500 to like $2,000 and up range. And I'm sorry, the Colorado sky is doing crazy stuff outside right now, so the light might be changing from dark to light, but you just gotta bear with me. I can't control the Colorado sky. If you're coming to Boulder and you're looking for a roommate situation, of course you can find something that is a little bit cheaper. I would say the cheapest advertised roommate situations, and I mean like living in a house with like 3 to 5 other people, is I've seen maybe, if you're lucky, as low as $600 a month, but that is like very rare. That's if you're lucky. I would say the average going rate for living with roommates in Boulder, Colorado is probably between like $750 up to $1,000 and up. The up is just exponential. But at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a little insider information on where to find cheaper housing in Boulder. So with those average ranges of rents in mind, we're gonna jump on into the map I'm gonna show you. I'm not gonna talk a whole lot about housing prices if you wanna buy a home. Those are also exponentially expensive in that I think the average medium home cost in Boulder is between $600,000 to $700,000. And that's for like, if you get like a small, really old, like ranch style home in like South Boulder. Most homes, most family homes go for, you know, up to $1 million and more in Boulder. So I'm assuming if you're watching this and you haven't moved to Boulder yet, you're probably looking to move here and to rent initially. And then maybe if you love it and you're wealthy and you want to buy something, there's that too. But I'm just not going to talk a whole lot about that today. So let's jump into my map. So let me just start out by saying that I did not make this map. I was going to make you a map, but then I found this one on the City of Boulder website that the City of Boulder made, and it is perfect, and I thought I'm just going to use this one. In the description below, I will link where I got this map, because that page that this map is on also has a lot of good information just about Boulder in general, so you guys can go visit there. So I like this map because it's been broken down into the most obvious neighborhoods of Boulder. And I'll start by saying that Boulder is really not that big, in the sense that you can get from this area way up in like the very tippy tip North Boulder. You could take that all the way to through Broadway, all the way down to South Boulder, and you can honestly do that within like 15 to 20 minutes. So it's not like a huge area, and it's the same kind of east to west, I would say. It could probably take you 10 to 15-ish minutes to get across Boulder east to west, like if you were going down Arapahoe, but again, it depends on traffic. So in general, Boulder isn't huge. It is pretty condensed into a small area, but again, not super, super urban. So I'm just going to explain each neighborhood now in terms of their expensiveness, I guess, but it's like, it doesn't really make sense to do that because seriously, it's like here is expensive, North Boulder's expensive, East Boulder's expensive, South Boulder, there's nothing that's not expensive. I want you to realize that there's nothing that's not expensive. There's no secret place in Boulder that's like magically, you know, like $400 a month rent. Everything is expensive. I guess I can explain like where it's like slightly less expensive, but that's really the only scale I can use is like expensive versus like slightly less expensive. But with that being said, everywhere you go, there will be random like amazing opportunities where there will be like a better rent in pretty much all parts of Boulder. So kind of an enigma in that sense. But I'm going to start by saying, so this like light purple area that is central Boulder, that's going to be your most expensive part of Boulder. That's like old school Boulder. That's where the Pearl Street Mall is. It also kind of backs up to CU right here. And it's like everything in this area. It's also right on the foothills of the mountains. This is west, so this is the mountains all right here. And all property that's right on that foothill area here up and down is going to be really expensive. So that's going to be really expensive. The next thing I'll point out is this Crossroads area, which I love that the city of Boulder has officially labeled this light blue area here, Crossroads, because that's the name of the old Crossroads Mall that no longer exists in that area, but used to be like the staple of that area. It's now been replaced by the 29th Street Mall, which is an outdoor mall that I honestly don't think is that great, but I mean, it's okay. But this whole area is it's not like a place that you live. This is like the up and coming like shopping area. Google is also here. The big Whole Foods is here. The only places to live in this Crossroads area are these new big fancy apartment buildings that are coming in. And I personally am not a super big fan of the apartment buildings because they're honestly adding to the huge disparity in Boulder between the haves and the have-nots, because the apartment buildings that are going in the Crossroads area are extremely expensive. Like to get a 1-bedroom in most of those apartments, it's over $2,000, which is insane. But it's like a status thing. And like I said, this is right where the Google hub of Boulder is. And so a lot of like, I guess like the tech people and all that stuff, like I would say the wealthy millennials are moving into that area. So it's like kind of hip in that sense. But like I said, it's not super homey, it's not super neighborhoody, there's not, and it's very expensive. So if you can afford to live in, I guess, this Crossroads area, that's cool. But like I said, it's very kind of more like new apartment buildings that are way, way overpriced. So if that's what you're into, that's cool. I'm not judging, but I am a little bit. But anyway, let's move on. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, okay, I have so much to talk about, I can't even like get organized. Okay, so all of these neighborhoods out here, like North Boulder kind of circling down, East Boulder, Southeast Boulder, South Boulder, this is where a lot more, like it's kind of all the same price range all out through here. And it's also a lot more neighborhoody. Some parts are like even like old school neighborhoods. Like at the beginning of this video, I mentioned like an old ranch style home in South Boulder, like the Table Mesa area is what I'm talking about. There's a lot of, in this area, I don't even know what color this is, like teal. There is very old, like the original like suburbia of Boulder that was built in like the 1950s and 60s is still there. And so a lot of those ranch style homes are now rentals, where a lot of people who, you know, younger people or people who are going to the university live in like roommate situations. But there's also a lot of just families that live there. So you'll see when you drive through those neighborhoods, you'll see like kind of the older homes that have never been remodeled, and they'll be next to like this big fancy remodeled home that some, you know, family has bought and they've done up. So again, there's like a lot of price differences there sometimes, but that's a good area. But like I said, it's like kind of this whole area. So this whole area has a lot of different rental home situations. Then I want to talk about this area, this red area out here called Gun Barrel. So I'm so glad that the city of Boulder that made this map included Gun Barrel in them. And of course they did, because Gun Barrel is technically a part of Boulder. If you live in Gun Barrel, you have a Boulder address. But as you can see, it's like not connected to Boulder. There's like this weird no man's land, and you can only get to Gun Barrel. I mean, I guess the main way to get to Gun Barrel is on this highway here called the Diagonal Highway. You can see there's also a lot of like country roads that go out there, but like this is your main in and out, and this highway also goes to Longmont. So it's like Gun Barrel's kind of on the way to Longmont, and Longmont's a totally different city with like a whole different thing going on. There's like, anyway, I won't get into the Boulder versus Longmont rivalry, but there's a whole thing there. So anyway, so Gun Barrel is, I would say, probably the cheapest place that you could live. If you want to live in Boulder and have a Boulder address, then living in Gun Barrel could be good for you. There's also a ton of apartments there, older apartments. So they're not like the nice, fancy, hip, new apartments that are being built around the Google complex and Crossroads. They are older, and I've noticed this, that a lot of transplants, so people who move to Boulder, they kind of accidentally end up in Gun Barrel because they're just perusing Craigslist and, you know, apartments are advertising like, oh, Boulder, and then it's a cheaper rent. And so they'll go for it, and then they move here and they realize, like, they didn't realize that they're moving to Gun Barrel, which is technically a part of Boulder, but people in Boulder think of it as it's not Boulder, but it is. So anyway, so sometimes it can feel a little bit, you're isolated out there. Like I said, there's one way in and out. There's also, it's getting better, but it used to be like even 5 years ago, there was just like a King Soopers, a grocery store, and a Subway, and like one Indian restaurant. And that's really all there was in this subdivision. But now there's a lot more restaurants. It's becoming a little more built up. So it's a little more, it's becoming more hip. I would never call Gun Barrel hip, but I'm also an old school Boulder person, and maybe I'm not with the times. But there is more out there. And like I said, it is probably going to be a little bit cheaper. Not cheap, but less expensive than if you were living, say, in, you know, central Boulder. So that is a good option for you. I would say also not a good option for you to live in Gun Barrel if you are going to be working in Broomfield or Denver. So the whole thing, and I'll include North Boulder, like the whole North Boulder area in this as well, is it's not great to live out here if you need to commute to Denver and Broomfield or whatever that's out there often. So you'll see down here, there's Highway 36. That's how you get out of Boulder to go to Denver. And so if you're up here, you have to drive through all this crazy Boulder sprawl just to get out of Boulder. Because like I said, this is the only way out to go to Denver, except for the country roads. Like, that's just how it goes. So so if you're in Gun Barrel, luckily you do have the Diagonal Highway, which will kind of connect you a little bit faster, but it's going to add commute time. And maybe you don't really care because it's only like 5 to 10 minutes maybe extra. Well, maybe more than that, depending on traffic. But for me, if I was moving here and I knew that I was going to be going to Denver every day or often, I would definitely live in South Boulder. So just something to consider. So, okay, what next? Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was what your interests are in terms of activities and outdoor stuff and where to live in Boulder based on that. So I'm going to start with runners because I'm a runner, and I've just, based on my own preferences, I've like learned where I like to run, and I really like to run in this East Boulder, Southeast Boulder area because it is slightly more flat, and it is also, there's longer trails out here. I'm also the kind of person, like, I like to run, like just leave my front door and just start to run. So I don't want to drive somewhere to like find a place to run. So I personally like to be able to go longer distances and know that I'm not going to be faced with like a lot of just steep uphills and then big downhills. Like, I like it to be like a little flatter with like some variation. In East Boulder, there's a lot of that. It's a little flatter, but still some hills. Like, it's not totally flat. Like, all of Boulder is going to be hilly. But just there's longer runs. It's just better, I think. But that's not to say you can't run wherever. In North Boulder and in South Boulder, there's also places to run. But I've noticed in both these areas, more so North Boulder, less so South Boulder. But in North Boulder, it's like you're always either running like uphill or downhill. Like, you're never just even, like on an even, surface, it feels like. And that kind of annoys me. So, and then South Boulder, there's also going to be some of that, but it's probably better. So I would say if you're a runner, live somewhere out here in East to South Boulder. But if you're a trail runner and you're one of those hardcore people that likes to run up steep hills, then I would suggest you find something that's along the foothills here. So this whole area here, there's going to be trails all over here, and especially if you're into Mount Sanitas, that's going to be kind of like around here-ish. But again, that's very expensive to live over there. So, but you know, if you're watching this and you can afford that, that's awesome, and live wherever the frick you want. So, okay, there's that. Then I want to talk about bikers or cyclists. So if you're a cyclist, I would recommend that you live in North Boulder or even Gun Barrel, because out here, there's just a lot more open road to bike on. You can't bike on US 36 because you just can't. It's like a closed highway. But there is a new bike path that goes along it that you can bike on, so that's cool. But in terms of like very popular places for cyclists, cyclists love to bike along the diagonal because that weirdly is a highway that you can bike on, although it always scares me whenever I see cyclists out there. And then also the north part of US 36, which is right here. This comes out and goes to Estes Park and Lyons. That's a very popular place to bike, and then all these country roads as well. So North Boulder and Gun Barrel is a great place to live if you are a cyclist, but again, there's cyclists all over the place, so you can live wherever you want. But just a little insider tip. Okay, what have I missed? Okay, the vibes. I guess I wanted to talk about the vibes of each of these areas. So something I haven't brought up yet is we obviously have CU Boulder in Boulder. I went there. I know what it's like. It's great. But if you are not a CU student currently, you might not want to live in this like pink area, and also the areas like directly surrounding it, not this purple area, because that's weirdly not a lot of CU students over there, except for right here in this little triangle. If you can see, that's definitely CU students there. But in this area, like coming out here, there's also a lot of CU student housing. This whole pink area is like for sure, like CU I think owns that area, and like there's tons of CU student housing there. So if you are a student, you're gonna wanna maybe live in this area so you can be close to campus and you know, not have to bike or ride the bus too far or whatever. But if you are not a student and you don't really want to live in like a very highly student populated area because of parties or whatever, then to be a little further out from like right around the pink area is probably a good idea. But it's pretty mixed. Like Boulder is not at all segregated into like only these people live here and only these people live here. It's like it's a very mixed community where pretty much anywhere you go, you'll find kind of the same type of people, but also like, yeah, it's not going to be super different depending on where you live. We're all here. So that was kind of the main vibe I wanted to talk about. The other one was the one I already brought up, and that's this Crossroads area, where that truly is a place that is only going to be those, you know, new apartment buildings. And so there's definitely that like, kind of hip, younger vibe there. But besides that, everywhere is just Boulder. So the last thing I want to say before wrapping up this video is if you are moving to Boulder and you love the idea of living in Boulder, well, first of all, go watch my other video about best advice on moving to Boulder to really make sure that Boulder is the place for you. And if it is, and you also know that you're moving here and maybe you can't afford the kind of rents that you're going to see all over Craigslist and apartments.com or whatever, there is an awesome Facebook group that's called Boulder Creative Housing. I'm a part of it, and it's a great place to go if you are looking for a more creative living situation. So say if you're moving here and you truly can only afford like $500 a month in rent, you can always post a little introduction in that Facebook group and say what you're looking for, say that you can't afford much, and then I bet your bottom dollar that people who aren't advertising rooms or don't actively like put themselves out there as having a room will probably reach out to you and maybe offer you something. The Facebook group is a closed Facebook group. I don't have any stake in like directing you there. I'm not like a moderator or anything. I mean, you can join and say Genevieve sent you and probably no one will care because I'm a very inactive lurker person in that group. But so I'm giving this advice to you, not because I have any stake in it, but because I think it's a genuinely helpful place to go. It's a private Facebook group, so it's not like anyone on your homepage or whatever is gonna see that you're posting there. And I found it to be generally very helpful to people who are looking for housing and they can't afford the typical Boulder prices. So I hope this video was helpful to you. I tried to pack a lot of rambling information into this video, so I really hope you got a lot out of it. I had fun making it, and I will see you in my next video. I plan to keep making videos about Boulder. I have a lot of pride in Boulder, even though I also have a lot of, I guess, resentments towards Boulder. Since I grew up here, I've seen it change a lot. I still have a lot of pride in Boulder, and I want to be welcoming to people who truly do want to move here and experience it, and there's no one for them to turn to. I'm wanting to be that person here who can help you. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. I will be putting up new content very soon, so I will see you soon.